I thank the representative of Somalia for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Russian Federation.
Thank you, President. There was a time when Europe, for many of us, was associated with the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, cutting-edge philosophy, culture, and science. Yet today, all of that, unfortunately, has gone, and it's gone for good. Voltaire, Rousseau, Kant, and other leading philosophers have been replaced with the von der Leyens, the Callises, and the Johnsons, as well as other small-time blinkered Russophobes, thanks to their efforts, the primitive hatred for our country, and an attempt to portray Russia as the main threat to pan-European security, is, before our very eyes, becoming the only ideology of European states. They're trying their utmost to make the next generation forget the bitter experience of predecessors of today's Euro-integrators. For instance, the experience of Napoleon and Hitler, who suffered defeat at our country's hands, for which Europe paid a lengthy and painful price. Any events are immediately interpreted through an anti-Russian prism. The very idea that war with Russia is unavoidable is being frantically pounded into the heads of the European populace. Russia is being branded all sorts of things, portrayed as an enemy, not even going to the trouble in principle of using facts or evidence. When these assertions turn out to be false, no one even thinks about apologizing for spreading such blatant lies. Today, we will have an excellent opportunity to see this for ourselves, given that in the room we have a lot of European extras. These extras will, as per usual, will be letting their imaginations run wild regarding the threat from Russia. This paranoia has reached never-before-seen heights. Just last week, we were compelled to listen in this chamber to groundless accusations about supposedly Russian UAVs entering Polish airspace. Not a single piece of evidence that these drones were of Russian provenance has been provided to date. It's telling that just a few days later, we heard that the incident involving damage to the roof of a residential house in Lublin province, which was a key component of this anti-Russia campaign, in reality was the result of a missile erroneously being dropped from a Polish fighter jet. The Polish Prime Minister Tusk today recognized that not a single drone that was found contained explosives. Not a single one posed a threat to civilians. As for the Polish opposition, it clearly said this is a blatant provocation, the aim being to pull Poland into war. President, we take very seriously allegations against our armed forces. We always try to get the facts, which should allow us to understand what actually happened. This is why, in trying to get to the bottom of the situation, we immediately proposed for the Polish side to engage in bilateral consultations with us. Yet we didn't get a sensible reaction from Warsaw. This attests to only one thing. Neither Warsaw nor Brussels want the truth. All they need is a pretext for a new wave of the Russophobia campaign they're engaged in. It's very difficult to comment. Our European neighbors are inculpating themselves so obviously. Anyone of sound mind, anyone who is familiar with elementary logic would never say such a situation is normal. But yet, if on every screen, in every social media outlet, on every page, you're being told that Russia is your only enemy, then you might start believing anything and everything. The facts, the evidence here are superfluous. Today, we're compelled to be here to watch part 2 of this spectacle entitled Blame Russia for Everything. Our neighbors have now imagined that Russia is at fault for an incursion into Estonian airspace. As always, there is no proof except the Russophobic hysteria coming from Tallinn, which our Estonian colleague will wax lyrical about a little bit later. As for the facts prove that on the 19th of September, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets conducted a planned flight from Karelia to an airbase in Kaliningrad Oblast, carried out in strict accordance with international airspace use rules. The Russian aircrafts did not stray from the agreed route, nor did they cross into Estonian airspace. Their flight was over the neutral waters of the Baltic Sea, over 3 kilometers from the island of Vindlo. Flight recorded data confirm this. If Estonia wanted to, it could have checked this itself. But Tallinn is not pursuing such an objective. Their goal is different, going against common sense and the facts to foment hysteria and accuse Russia of provocations. Thus, NATO representatives rushed to call what happened reckless behavior. And the head of European diplomacy, who also happens to be Estonian, called for a firm stance in support of the Baltic states. To be perfectly frank, our European colleagues deserve our sympathies. After all, the project they'd been building on our borders for years, the anti-Russia project, and this is what Ukraine was actually turned into after 2014, this project is coming apart at the seams, discrediting itself. Ukraine became the Zelensky concentration camp long ago. It's not sparing its people. They're dying by the thousands every day in a senseless meat grinder in the name of Western geopolitical interests. The Zelensky regime has turned its country into a symbol of corruption, outright theft, violations of human rights, the freedom of religion and the freedom of speech. In European capitals, despite all of this, they continue to laud so-called Ukrainian achievements, giving money and weapons to the Kiev regime.